Our next conversation is with three faces you'll probably recognize. Three women who have and who continue to grace our TV screens. Please welcome TSN sports anchor Kayla Grey, multi-platform journalist Nam Kiwanuka from TVO, and former co-host of CTV's The Social turned politician, Marci Ien. We're so excited to have all of you on Cityline for this important show. And before we get started, I just want to point out that a conversation like this, spanning networks, has rarely been done before in Canada, and certainly not with a panel of Black women. So let's start by sharing some experiences we've had in our years in the biz, because even though we're at different networks, I know there's been overlap. I'd like to know what obstacles you've encountered as Black women, and you know what? I'm going to start, if that's okay with you. In 2008, I, after a 3-month audition, was hired to host Cityline, and I would become the first Black woman to host a daytime show in Canada. I was elated. I was so excited. My family was so excited. And then I was asked to change my hair. So I had natural hair, and I had gone through many styles trying to figure out a professional style that would, be deemed appropriate by society. And I thought I had found that with my twist extensions. But I was asked to change it, and after the suggestion of changing it lasted for about a year because I was fighting it, it became a demand. And I have to say, there is something so destabilizing about being told you are almost perfect for this job, but just a little too Black. And that's how I felt. I felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt like I wasn't really being asked to show up in this space 100% as who I am. And I think that was really tough. And not only did it hurt, it also undermined my confidence. And coming into this new space, this lifestyle space, and understanding that I wasn't quite what they wanted, I think was a little bit debilitating. But I did get past it, and I did get through it. Now, though, every time I come into this space with a natural hairstyle like I am today, I do it with much trepidation because I carry that hair trauma with me. So I'm going to go to you, Marce. Are there experiences that you've been through that draw a direct link to you being a woman and Black?
Absolutely, Trace. I was listening to your story and thinking back. At one point, I had braids, and I was working, for another station at the time. And it was kind of a gentle nudge, but still a nudge. We liked your hair better the other way. And the other way was kind of the way it looks right now. So there was that. And I was also thinking, Tracy, when you started at Cityline, you were trailblazing. And what that means is you needed to be very careful. And I've been there too, about how you react. So you need to be quieter than you want to be, because you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about those that would come next. And making sure that you do the right thing, say the right thing, be the right person, look the way they want you to look, because if you don't, that might mean someone else may not have a job or have a chance later.
You said it perfectly there, Marce. Kayla, I want to go to you now, because you made history your first time hosting SportsCenter on TSN as the first Black woman in Canada to host a flagship sports highlight show. So can you tell us a little bit about how you look at that experience?
Honestly, I look at that experience as if for all three of you, it's the fruits of all three of your labor before me. I would not have this position that I have if not for you all knocking down doors in your respective fields and paving a way for someone like me to become a first in sport. And I don't take that lightly. I show up with pride because I know I show up on your backs. And so for me, that experience was, okay, Kayla, 2018, you're the first. You know this. I knew it going in. I wasn't learning it. I always knew that that was going to be historic for me. But I think what I focused on the most was, how do you, in your position, make sure that you are not the last? And so for me, the biggest thing was you need to show up as yourself. And at first, I was scared. I was feeling like I had to be more quiet. I couldn't be as funny. I couldn't inject as much personality because I was so wrapped up in making everybody feel comfortable with me being on their television screens, with me being in their spaces. And I had to say, you got to let that go. because the goal is for you to perform your best. And when you perform your best, it's just because you show up as is, as yourself. So I'm not going to lie, there were things I've done at Sports Center where I've been incredibly intentional doing them, such as rocking my hair in braids. I love the hairstyle, but I also love being able to have that platform and that stage for other people to see me in braids so that it becomes normal and it becomes beautiful as it always should have been. I want a little girl who is watching sports to see someone with the same hair type, who talks the same skin tone, to feel empowered enough to go after her dreams, but also to take it 5,000 steps further than what I will ever be able to do.
And you are doing it. Nam, I want to talk a little bit about colorism because you've spoken and written about having light skin privilege, which is something a lot of us can relate to. Have you seen that have an effect on your career? And if so, how?
Part of the reason why I've been able to enter certain doors is because I have light skin and because I have light eyes. And I think in the society that we live in, somehow that makes you more welcoming, or, I think for people, when they hear privilege, like you need to acknowledge your privilege, they think that, oh, well, I've worked really hard, I've earned this. But yes, you worked hard. I worked hard, yes. But you also have to acknowledge that it is harder in certain industries. If you look, I mean, you can just turn on the TV in Canada just to see who's in front of the camera. And you have your evidence there. And when I first started at Much Music, there had never been anyone that looked like me with natural hair or with a name like mine. And I think, Kayla, what you just said, and I have to big up Kayla because I worked in the sports industry and it is a beast. And for her to do what she did, it's an indication of her hard work. It's not easy, and people need to just give her flowers, well, because she's done what she's done is incredible. But when I started, people were like, why are you wearing your hair? And it was from the Black community, because this stuff becomes internalized. And I think people would send me emails, and I think it was well-intentioned. They would ask me, why isn't my hair done? I've gotten this from my family when I got married. Why aren't you doing your hair? I'm like, my hair is done. This is how it is naturally. Rocking my hair, I think, was intentional. I didn't realize it at the time, how big an impact it would have for girls coming up after me. But I was like, this is my hair. Why should I have to change it? And also I reclaimed my name because when I came to Canada, I became Nam Kiwanuka. And I remember at Much Music, we all know your relationship with a floor director, who's the person that counts you down. It's very intimate. And if your floor director if there's something between you, it's not good. There was a floor director who would make comments to me and say, you should change your name. No one's going to remember you. I can't say your name. Change it back to Mary, or just become Renee. Like I can't say your name. And I would get this before I went on live television. And I had to kind of just push that stuff aside and just, speak my truth and just be. And I didn't realize just me being who I was, that was powerful. And that was a political statement. And I never realized the impact that it would have later on.
And it's still a political statement, and it still has impact, Nam. So thank you so much for that. Now, listen, you talk about sort of pushing things aside, but this summer we couldn't do that anymore. So we had to do our jobs very publicly with racial injustice and mounting tensions as the backdrop. How does Black Lives Matter affect your work? Marci, I want to start with you on this one.
It affected everything. I had already, being on the social, being on a panel, Kayla knows this, where you can speak your mind and speak your opinion. I had been speaking about my lived experience for years as a Black woman in Canada and the challenges, as a Black mom of 2 kids and navigating all of that and sharing that with the country. But then, it was Black Lives Matter and talking about my experiences differently. A couple of years ago, I wrote an op-ed in the Globe and Mail about being stopped in my own driveway. And that stop happened after I had been stopped numerous times before that in my neighborhood. And I'll tell you, when you start to speak about race, that's when you understand what is happening in our country. That is when you understand what a powder keg looks like. Because while there were some people that were supportive, to this day, social media has not been kind. I've been called a race baiter for speaking my truth. I've been called,
Mhm.
oh, you're just another celebrity who's complaining about, a ticket. And why didn't you just stop at a stop sign? The question nobody asked was, why are you afraid? And that right there speaks to the trauma,
Right.
generational trauma of living in Black skin, of seeing every male member of my family being stopped by the police, of my best friend being thrown down by the police and cuffed in a case of mistaken identity. All of these things culminate when you are stopped. It's not just a traffic stop. And so, in explaining that and explaining why Black Lives Matter, but also the trauma, the layers of trauma we carry, and the fact that probably like you guys, my parents came here and they were happy to be here and happy to get work. And so
Mhm.
I was taught to be quiet. I was taught to work hard and just get by. Don't rock the boat. Don't speak too loudly. Just do what you have to do. And I've done the complete opposite. And I've learned that it's necessary.
So I was hosting a show during the summer during the Black Lives Movement. And one of the challenges that I had was being seen as not being objective because I would tweet things out like hashtag Black Lives Matter. And I really want people to think about looking at journalists of color and
Mm.
asking them to have this kind of distance to something that affects their lives every day. As a journalist, my job is to listen, but I also think that journalists also listen to other journalists when certain things are happening. It's not a political thing to demand to be treated the same, to fight for your own humanity. It's
Right.
not a political thing, and you're not, you're not being partisan or anything like that.
I think it's fuel for all of us that are out here and have platforms and can do something about the situation, even if it's just voicing our lived experience. I want to talk a little bit about giving a message to yourself at the beginning of your career. If you could do that, what would you tell yourself in a line or two?
Oh, a lot or two. That's all I have.
Sorry.
I would say to myself, because I go back to this now with everything and being as vocal as I've been vocal, stay the course. Stay the course. There are so many people, as you know, that will tell you, list off a whole bunch of reasons as to why you got a certain job or why you didn't get a certain job.
Yeah.
You're too loud, you're too this, you're too that, you're not good enough. When in fact, we probably are twice as good, if not better, than what they are holding us up to standard to. So I would tell myself to stay the course, because when you are clear and, with everything, as Marci had mentioned, this time of really finding our voice and adding some volume to the voice, I've become so clear on purpose and why I'm here and what I'm meant to use this platform for. And ever since I became clear, nobody else has been able to shake that movement. So I think I always just go back to stay the course.
Incredible. I have to say, for all three of you, your vulnerability and your candor is something I very much connect to, and I really appreciate you joining me and your strength, because you all stand in your space and you own your space. So Kayla, Nam, and Marci, thank you so much for joining us for this special panel and for being so open to sharing your personal experiences. We love